Hey bitches, it's me Pallavi, and this week on Dirty Science, we're talking about depression. The American Psychiatric Association describes depression, or major depressive disorder, as a medical illness that causes feelings of sadness and or a loss of interest in activities once enjoyed. While there are a number of symptoms that we all commonly know to be associated with depression, sadness, loss of interest, change in appetite and or energy, feeling worthless or guilty, difficulty thinking, concentrating, or making decisions, and thoughts of death or suicide, it should be noted that other causes, such as thyroid conditions, brain tumors, and vitamin deficiencies, also mimic signs of depression and must be ruled out. Depression affects 6.7% of adults in any given year, and 16.6% of people will experience depression at some point in their life. That's it? Just 16.6%? Okay, so like just me and my friends are unhappy and the rest of the world is fine and they're not trying to cope using Twitter? Great. Fucking great. No, it's fine. I want everyone to be happy, and if people aren't depressed, then it doesn't mean I trust them less. Okay. Women are more likely to experience depression than men. Yeah, checks out. Psychological change and stress can contribute to depression and tends to be different in men and women. Men are more likely to have depressive episodes when dealing with divorce, separation, and work issues, while women are more likely to have depressive episodes when dealing with problems with an individual, serious illness, or death. Wasn't that what all of Mad Men was about? And while depression can occur at any point in your life, it is more likely to first occur in your late teens to mid-20s. You know, when you're sent away from your family and friends and support groups and surrounded by drugs and alcohol for the first time. It's also important to know that there's a difference between grief and depression. Grief comes in waves and is mixed in with positive feelings, and your self-esteem isn't affected. Depression and grief can coexist. Brings a new meaning to that bumper sticker, huh? I might get it now. There are specific requirements in order for you to be clinically diagnosed as depressed, including the previous symptoms we talked about lasting for 2 weeks or longer. Paid leave, but in bed. Thanks for the info, American Psychiatric Organization. Now, what the fuck is going on in our brains? There are a lot of different things going on in your body when you have depression. A study from 2000 showed that genetic factors could influence your presence of depression by up to 30 to 40%. But these types of diseases are too complex to attribute to specific genes. The best way to assess genetic risk of depression is through family history. You know, by asking our immigrant parents who refuse to believe in sadness, or that therapy is anything other than a scam created by white people to steal our money and brainwash us. Yep, gonna ask those people how they were feeling when they were surviving on scraps in a new country with no support system while starting a new family on their own. Bad. I'm guessing they felt bad. Just gonna check that box yes for family history of depression. No need to ask. Okay, wait, let's really get into it though. Hormones. What'd you call me? Hormones are not just an excuse to not teach young boys consent, they can also affect your mood. Cortico-releasing hormone, CRH, is released from a part of your brain called the hypothalamus in response to stress. CRH then causes the pituitary gland to release corticotropin and the adrenal gland to release cortisol. Different hormones in your body are released during times of stress or elevated during times of stress, but sometimes this is person dependent. For example, some stress hormones are released differently in depressed individuals who've experienced childhood trauma, and some hormone receptors are regulated differently when a person has experienced childhood abuse. Hormones are so associated with depression that when people have acute cases of depression, sometimes cortisol can be found in their saliva, and sometimes elevated levels of CRH can be found in their cerebrospinal fluid. Hey, when I make it wet, can you taste my sadness? CRH changes your behavior in ways that are similar to depression, and antagonists, or things that work against the receptors that CRH binds to, can reduce depression and anxiety. Another change in your body during depression, sometimes your body acts inflamed while you're depressed. This inflammatory response is caused by cytokines, which are produced by your immune system cells. Blocking cytokine pathways that result in inflammation lead to an antidepressant effect. I always knew depressed people were hotter. Okay, let's talk about monoamine neurotransmitters. Monoamine neurotransmitters. Monoamine neurotransmitters are named for their chemical composition. Some examples include dopamine, serotonin, and epinephrine. We've talked about how neurotransmitters transmit signals between neurons, but when the receptor for certain neurotransmitters, such as serotonin, is blocked, preventing those neurotransmitters from being taken back up by the neuron and causing those neurotransmitters to just remain in the space between two neuron cells, this causes antidepressant effects. And these effects have led to the theory theory that maybe what's causing depression is deficiency of these neurotransmitters floating between these neurons. Maybe brain metabolism and reward processing is affected by this. Norepinephrine may also play a role in depression, and so might dopamine. Dopamine reuptake inhibitors and dopamine agonists, or stuff that binds to the same receptors as dopamine, thereby preventing dopamine from binding to those receptors and causing it to stay in between those neurons for longer, causes an antidepressant effect. Cerebral spinal fluid and human plasma taken from the jugular vein show decreased levels of dopamine in depressed patients. And there are physical confirmations that show how we process rewards is affected by dopamine. Depressed patients have smaller reactions to positive reinforcement and abnormal reactions to negative feedback. That's why some people respond positively to constructive criticism, and I think you hate me. There are also other neurotransmission methods that are found to be reduced during depression, including what is known as GABA and glutamate, which is a major excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. Also, neuroimaging and post-mortem studies after you're dead have shown changes in the structure of the brains of depressed people, including volume reduction. Your brain shrank, and other studies have shown that people's circadian rhythms or their sleep patterns are abnormal. So what does this all mean? I don't have time in one video to explain everything that is associated with depression, its causes, and its symptoms. And I'll probably go more in depth in other videos on different aspects of depression that we talked about today. Also, most of this information was from a review from 2010, and I'm sure that there have been developments since then. But the big takeaway from this is that though depression is a mental health issue, in your brain and in your body it has a very physical presence. Like how my guilt and shame take the very physical form of empty cinnamon Altoid cans and candy wrappers. There's no use denying this evidence when both me and the candy wrappers are trapped in my bed. So the next time that someone wants to shit on you for something they can't see that you're affected by, wear a helmet to work and then sob in the bathroom, shoving peanut butter wrappers in your mouth. In the words of the wise one.
Hey, I'ma dip my balls in some $1,000 dressing, cause I got depression.